Okay, we're watching. Okay, hello. Okay. Okay, we're just gonna be watching Helldivers to just accumulate everything, every live service game.
Well, I hope only adults are watching because today we get to talk
Ooh.
about a dirty word and
What?
Helldivers. The dirty word is FOMO. It's the fear of missing out. It's the
Oh,
engine that's
FOMO.
powering gaming's worst impulses. Your gated skins, your timed purchase opportunities, your limited battle
Oh, is is Helldivers not doing that? Is everything not time gated? Because
passes.
that is actually that is insane. That is so good for a game.
That
Because I
expire and
hate
just
it.
have all your value in your purchase disappear away into the wind. It's all stuff designed to manipulate players into spending
Yeah.
time and spending money. But here's the thing, right? In some recent weeks, we've seen something different. We've seen a game where FOMO is actually the point, where, quote,
Wait, what?
never available again is exactly why people played.
Oh,
And an
okay, okay.
example
Helldivers actually doing the opposite. They're just okay, yeah. It's not gonna happen again. I think it's pretty decent. So I can make players play. That's just okay. Because if it's not time game, you're just gonna be left out.
where it actually had nothing to do with spending money. Because I
Oh,
suppose, in its most pure
yeah.
sense,
That's actually
FOMO could be applied to a really good game of
yeah.
poker with your
Oh,
friends that,
Bellular.
you don't want to miss out on because it could be really fun. That natural sense where the FOMO is because something's actually good and the
Oh, the FOMO is it's not paying wise. It's just like the experience, just the experience your FOMO, but the experience you're not gonna experience this again. It's actually pretty decent. Actually, more games should do that because it will make your game more relevant and more people will play it because I don't want to be left out by this and I want to experience this too.
thing that makes it good is the fact that it's not completely deterministic. Though, in this case, there's a few funny things on that. And here's the rub. More than 3 million people played Helldivers 2 during one single special week. And the reason why is that nobody wanted to miss out on
Yeah,
actually being part of the story.
yeah,
Usually, when we talk about FOMO, it is about overt manipulation. It's about companies trying to grab your time, grab your money. And the last time we talked about
it's
Helldivers, it
predatory.
was literally FOMO for that exact reason.
A
It was when they
Killzone
added the
2. Oh,
Killzone crossover
it's a
weapons and
crossover. That's
cosmetics.
actually
They
sick.
were only available for a week, they were at a cost higher than normal, and the reaction was fairly clear. People rebelled, they were angry. So what did Arrowhead do? Well, they ended up giving a second wave of content out for free,
Oh,
essentially a
sick,
Christmas gift. And they also announced plans to revamp the in-game shop. Basically, they wanted to
sick.
avoid that type of thing never happening again. And those plans actually just came true. That's because the latest update puts most time limited gear in a regular store. That means that you can just buy it whenever, which is
That's
obviously
actually
good
so
news.
good.
It's a company moving away from unfriendly monetization, and that deserves
No, no, that if you do that, more play will play, and more players will spend on it. Like I don't understand this when people like when even those do this, like make everything expensive so that only certain people will buy it. If you make it cheap, more people will buy the cheap thing. Like it works in me if you put like a cheap thing in a video game. It's just this much, and I can get a lot of this. And it's like you can repeatedly buy it. You will buy it, and you didn't and you didn't even know that you already spent a lot more than like you would spend if it's expensive.
celebration. But today's FOMO story is actually a different one. This comes from Helldivers being a live service game, but in a way that actually uses the fact it's a live service to make it a better game. Instead of the usual, which is basically just edge you out until you eventually decide that you can't take it anymore and for some reason you buy something. Okay, let's talk about the defense of Super Earth. For months, Arrowhead teased something big. The newest enemy, the Illuminate, was coming. They were, in fact, heading straight towards Super Earth. And with the latest update to the game, they arrived. And this was a truly massive in-game event. So what did players get? Well, what players got was huge new city environments, new mission types, new enemy variants, and a very clear system. Here's how the system worked. The attacking fleet of the Illuminate had limited resources. Over time, the fleet would destroy active locations on Super Earth, and this would happen at a set rate. Now, players could slow down that rate. They could also weaken the fleet by winning missions. Essentially, each day brought a group of locations for you to defend.
Which
And that
actually
meant that the player base
looks
had to
so
spread
fun.
out. They needed to juggle defending all of them within the time constraints that they were given. And here are the stakes. Once a city was gone, it was gone. It was destroyed by aliens. There was no going back. Basically, this gave real consequences.
There's actually
Previous defense
consequences. It's
events
actually
have existed,
sick.
but they would let players surge back. Players could retake lost locations. Not this time. If a city fell, it was gone. And
Oh,
you know
that's-
what?
that-
This
that
plan
looks
actually
so-
worked. Helldivers became
that's
the
fun.
#1 game on Steam in the US that week. 3.4 million people played during the defense. That's all clustered around one single week. But here's the real proof. Before this update, players averaged around 2.5 million per week. That's 900,000 more players. And those extra players were not drawn in by new cosmetics. They were not drawn in by a purchase opportunity, by the fact that finally they could get a
God, my
Porsche
dogs are
Macan
retarded.
skin for Diva in their Overwatch. It wasn't that. They came for the narrative. They came for the emotional stakes. They came for a reason to play. Now, in a way, it's still FOMO, because the
Yeah, because
defense
it's
is over.
fun.
Super Earth has been defended. But this time it's different. Players wanted to say, I was there. This could have been just another update, and it would have had the same pattern as always. Players log in, play some rounds with new enemy types, try new
Sorry for
mission
my
types,
dog.
and they log out. And of course, when you look at
It's
Steam,
kinda
you know
retarded.
that the player numbers spike whenever new content drops. That is, of course, fairly normal. Sometimes players will come back later to do it all again
He's
with
actually
another
fucking dumb.
update, and of course they do. We literally have got the stats. And Arrowhead, of course, gets to reuse the enemies and the locations. It's all got fairly typical by now. I mean, as an example, they've already expanded the city environments over to Terminid planets. And to be clear, those mechanical updates to the game do actually matter. Last summer is even a perfect example of it actually mattering, because even Helldivers players, they're okay with repetitious content. Even they get tired without new stuff to do. Right? No new missions, no new weapons, no new upgrades. Guess what? Players leave. We see it in the Steam data. And by now, we're all very used to this type of development pattern happening with almost every game that we play.
Yeah, it's
But,
pretty normal.
You see, it's the context that's absolutely everything here. Players have got to believe something about Helldivers, and they have to believe it with no proof from Arrowhead. And if they don't believe it, the concept of the game falls over. What would happen if players did not stop the Illuminate? What would happen? Would
Yeah,
it
what?
actually matter?
Actually, what would
Players
happen?
basically had to believe the stakes were real. If they didn't show up, if they didn't hold the line, they
Yeah.
would lose the planet.
Yeah, what will
If you
happen?
want to
out
know
there?
a secret, they actually
Wait,
could have.
It's actually
Super Earth
going more crazy. God, my dude was barking at a fucking frog. He went crazy because a frog just fucking got close. My god, he's fucking.
could have fallen here. It's fairly neat how all of this shook out. Datamine footage shows cutscenes for if players failed. And the
There's
upshot of
actual
those cutscenes is that
cutscenes.
humanity would need a new HQ. Maybe they would have to retake Super Earth later on. Basically,
actually
it would have been
insane.
a whole different story. And most of the players who played this did not know for sure how far Arrowhead would go, unless, of course, they looked at the leaks. But what matters here is they seemingly trusted Arrowhead not to cheat them out. Why? Well, they had seen how Arrowhead reacted before. As an example, remember when players saved a fictional children's hospital? What you might have forgotten is they chose that children's hospital over getting a new stratagem.
Yeah.
Arrowhead honored their choice. They did not get the new stratagem. And Arrowhead had, of course, seen the mythos that developed around key battles.
don't
As
care
an
anymore.
example, Malevolent Creek. That's burned into all of our memories. So basically, players believed Arrowhead took this universe seriously. And because Arrowhead took it seriously, players took it seriously.
Yeah.
And if you want to know what player buy-in looks like, quite simply look at Equality on Sea. On a meta level, the ending seemed rather clear. The capital city, Prosperity, was the last location activated. Perfect timing, and it's also where Arrowhead are based. Narratively, it's essentially the perfect ending. But here's the thing about live service events. Players don't always follow the set narrative. For
Yeah, they
this,
don't.
enter Equality on Sea, the megacity that is based on Shanghai. This was the last defendable city before Prosperity. And when Chinese players realized this, they went into overdrive. The
Oh,
city's
sick. That's
defense
actually
rating
sick.
spiked. Global players saw a story forming, and when they did,
It's actually
they joined
sick.
in. Equality on Sea did not get weaker. Its strength spiked to 97.9783%, which is humongous. Now, unfortunately, the emotional buy-in has a little bit of a flip side. A badly translated mission objective confused Chinese players. They actually thought they could liberate their city. When they couldn't, well, Helldivers 2 got over 4,000 negative reviews on Steam. Those players felt cheated. They thought that Arrowhead, quote, broke the rules. They hadn't. It was a
What?
misunderstanding in this case, a mistranslation. This was an event that players couldn't win until defeating the Illuminate fleet. But it does show something important. The depth of feeling. The depth of feeling that this FOMO-powered event created in people. People believed in consequence here. They believed their actions mattered. And when the dust settled, Arrowhead actually decided to respect that. The last remaining cities were Equality on Sea and Prosperity. We have to presume that Prosperity was the intended final city, and basically Arrowhead could not have predicted this. They could not have predicted that a bit of a mistranslation confused a whole bunch of an audience, leading to a spike in player activity. And of course, players themselves couldn't have predicted this, that it would go the way that it did. But
Yeah.
now, everyone has a story. Everyone gets to pick up the pieces together. Arrowhead resets for their big next event, and they do so from a position of strength, having actually had something went wrong. But then the credibility boost of incorporating that into their story. That is actually quite powerful. That makes a game feel real. Though, of course, something looms over all of this. Is there another lever they can pull that's anywhere near this powerful? Because in this case, it was defending Super Earth. It was literally defending the entire thing that the Helldivers essentially exist to defend. That's a hard act to follow. But the thing that'll matter here is now players have got somewhat of a sense of what they will miss out on if they decide not to tune in next
Yeah, they
time.
would be.
And now I'm going to make the
It's
largest
just
point, the
FOMO.
thing that actually matters.
They wanted
because
to play
when
because
you
they
or I
want
think
to
of a
be.
live service
They
game,
don't
what do we
want
think of?
FOMO.
We think of store events, right? We see live service as a way of operation
Yeah.
and business model.
Yeah.
Obviously it is those things, but this is it as a game. And this is what online multiplayer games can actually offer. And in a way, there are loads of stories of things like this happening. Some of them are not intentional, like the Corrupted Blood incident
Yeah,
in World of Warcraft,
no,
the Faldor massacre in RuneScape, the assassination of Lord British in Ultima, and then of course there's this as intended with EVE Online. And the countless insane stories. I mean, hell, even Fortnite sometimes gets this with its concerts and its narrative moments that are pretty damn powerful player engagement tools. Basically, they end up being events that players talk about for years. And if you missed it, you know what? That kind of makes the thing matter. If a new event is something that you can always access, is it going to be exciting when a new one drops? There is something to say about permanence, and if we want meaning in our games, well, if something is abundant, always accessible, how does it really end up having meaning? And if everything has got to be some little isolated, airlocked off thing, how can you have meaning? I mean, as an example, if a game is going to change because something happened, say an event like this, well, that means that the game state has actually got to change. Change
Yeah.
means different than before. And it's something we've seen in PvE, where it happens naturally where devs can embrace it, like in EVE Online. But PvE is the one place where it's just never really happened. And that means that a PvE live service ends up feeling like it's all about crossovers and license deals to drive people
That
in,
it is. Yeah.
of daily events, battle passes,
Yeah.
login bonuses, all those things to drive retention. It all just means monetization, monetization, monetization. But done
I love that Helldivers actually made that because it actually is pretty like it's really like a raid. It's like an MMO raid. That's like the best thing I could like equate it to. It's like an MMO raid. You want to be part of the raid.
in a way that tells a player, act now or lose your chance to spend. This example shows us another way. You can still treat your players with respect. You can treat your universe with respect. You can give people reasons to return that are because your live game, your live universe is undergoing a pivotal narrative
Yeah.
moment and is going to change. That's a reason to
That's the
return.
thing is that I think the cool thing about Helldivers is like your choices actually matter because like you don't know what's the next update gonna be because like oh if they lose okay the update's this and if you win the update is this. You won't know for sure. And like because like oh I it's actually super sick though that like the game state is literally based on how the players react to the game. It's actually insane.
That may correlate with spending, but is not about spending. That is not a time limited store banner event. Because here's the ultimate difference it's you being sold a world versus you being sold a product. Sell me on the world, I will enter your world, and maybe I will buy some products. But when we're all talking about skins first, and banners first, and collabs first, rather than the game experience, that's when we've lost.
Yeah.
That's when live service has consumed the game
Yeah.
and just turned it into a cheap store. Not a case
And
like
that's when the game just like okay slowly goes downhill from there.
this with Helldivers, where live service
Like their main money grab now is just skins, not the content of the game, not like the actual mechanics of the game.
is not a dirty word, where it's actually elevated the game. So basically, hats off to Arrowhead. I'm keen to see how they
Hats
top this
off.
one next time. And if you want another story, still is in the
Yeah.
shooting genre, check this one out. Because my god, Mr. Splitgate
Not
did
gonna
not
lie. Oh yeah, Splitgate.
do the best marketing.
Well, that's it.